Happy New Year to everyone. Just few words I would like to share on this wonderful day. As we began our prayer today, Keshuaji mentioned it's kind of a lot of things come together. It is not just a new year. Few days from today, we'll be celebrating the birth anniversary of Yogananda ji. And we just came out of Christmas, no? So it's a beautiful, beautiful time. And many things, not only us, the entire world is also doing some sort of good things. I don't want to be judgmental. But again, so we want to talk about a little bit about what Yogananda means to us in some sense, no? When I also came to Ananda first, I had this whole idea about this a big mission he had. And recently, many of you might have seen the movie Awake, and that time it wasn't yet out. But still, we knew that it is like a big deal, no? He came to, and then we know that millions of followers he has. His own organization, Self-Realization Fellowship, which is like pretty much in every country. And even in India, it has many, many centers. Ananda, which is also one of the main goals, is to serve his teachings, is also pretty widespread. So with that intention, I came to India and I felt that, oh yeah, but still like in India, Ananda setup was still pretty new. And even today, I think it is pretty new. So I had my own idea of this whole big mission of Yogananda ji. And with that, I mean, we were serving here and I was invited to a particular school just to go and visit. And I went there and I saw his picture. And I was so surprised because I always thought, well, this is not Ananda. And I am the one who kind of so-called very well involved here. And how come I don't know about this place? I said, like, what are you doing here? And then later on I was talking to the person whose place was, and he was a very humble devotee, not directly related to any of these two organizations, but very well devoted, and then he was trying his best. And again, he shared many things, many intimate connections which he had, some visions from Yogananda ji and all those things. Again, I don't want to go into the credibility or any of it, but I felt that, oh boy, this is so beautiful. And then the same place also I met another teacher who was, again, has not a devotee, but she was connected to Yogananda ji in the teaching aspect. We know that one of the first thing Yogananda ji started was with the school in Ranchi, and I think it is still existing now. And so he had this idea of basically starting schools and like giving students that kind of an education. And then she took that portion into heart and again, like serving whatever way they understood his teaching was. And that kind of gave a glimpses to me that this work is probably way bigger than what even I can comprehend. And so from that huge, gigantic vision of his work is, no, then it comes to what Sister Gyanamata said, like, yes, Guruji, I know that you probably have a big mission and you came here for millions of souls, but I also want to believe that you came here just for me. And isn't it true for all of us also? You know, no matter how big we can say this work or this mission is, we all are here in this room because there is some personal touch. And that touch is his love for each of us and very individually. You see, that is very individually for me, for you. And it cannot be just expressed in that sense. We don't need anybody's acknowledgement to appreciate what that beautiful touch meant to us. As we begin with this new year, no, like new year comes with this lot of resolve and a lot of fire. And so many people, everyone, pretty much all of us will have some kind of a to-do list and then things of like, I'm going to do it this year. Yesterday night with Dayaji and Keshuaji, we also did some goal setting and some introspection. And that is what, in fact, Master wants from all of us. We had a glimpses of his voice now, and if some of you have not heard of his voice, please get some CDs and listen. So it's not very mellow. I mean, all three of us here are kind of a very soft-spoken people, no? But when he speaks, there is a lot of fire, you know? He speaks and then I can't even try and imitate his voice. But many things he said, and sometimes they are very taunting. He said, like, do not let any meditation be worse than the previous, or he says in a positive way, that every day's meditation has to be better than the next one. I said, oh boy, I am not quite there. Oh, and it's like, do not go to sleep unless you feel his presence inside your heart. Oh, I'm very sleepy today, you know. We don't know, but again, so he didn't really literally mean that for sure. We don't want to take it as a discouragement, but he wants from us is that fire, because that is what you see. He says that the India is like the spiritual teacher of the world, and we are, you see, like if that is the goal, what India represents, then we are in the right business, if I want to call it that way. And so we are the employees of that organization. No, we have to give it the best. And what a great opportunity. What is the purpose of life, really? That's the question we all came with here and everywhere, whatever situations brought us here. Now, he has given us an opportunity to go a little deeper and then find out that source, find out that true meaning. And then he invites us, he pushes us. And he also says, again in the discipleship vow, as we say that, I'm not giving you any riches that are going to be satisfied in any material sense. But if you practice this teaching, they have capacity to give answers that we truly seek. And that is an invitation, as I said, and again, as Surina was reading those letters, is basically for all of us to take our next step. He also said one thing like that, lots of people, they need to go to north, south, east and west. And he didn't only mean that organizations need to establish center in all those places, but what does it mean for each one of us here? The way I gave an example of these two people is just because we are those north, south, east and west. You know, if you look around in this room, we have people who are doing different sorts of things. The doctors here, they're engineers, they're teachers, they're businessmen. And we have the capacity when we move out of these walls to go out into the world. And that is the thread that Master holds to reach those people who don't necessarily feel an inclination to come to places like this, don't necessarily feel the inclination to practice formal sitting meditation. But they have the capacity to understand that touch through each one of us here. And that is what his invitation is when he says, go to those four directions and then get my consciousness and then spread it out. That is a challenge for all of us. We understand our own fields in much more way, no? Now that this year, maybe if we want, then the invitation is, how can I bring this consciousness into wherever I am? And that's what we began this prayer today with. It's like, fill us. Of course we will meditate morning, evening, because we first need to receive that. And then when we go out to do whatever our karmic responsibilities are, we don't want to wait. We don't want to do it just because, I will just get it over and then go back to my meditation. But feel his presence right there in that moment where we feel that it is very different. And that is what his invitation is. There's a beautiful prayer, and with this I will pause, is give thee to me so that I may give thee to all. And that is what we want to do. Again, meditate deeply, feel his presence inside your heart in our meditations, and try and express that in everything that we do and everyone that we meet. God bless you.
Thank you, Amit. Let me read now from Swami Kriyananda's book, The New Path. He describes the first New Year's Eve that he spent with his guru in the ashram at Mount Washington in Los Angeles. And he says, on New Year's Eve, we gathered in the main chapel for a midnight meditation led by Master. At one point during the proceedings, he beat a large gong, softly and then gradually increasing volume, alternately decreasing and increasing the volume in waves. Imagine this as the sound of Om, he told us, spreading outward to infinity. At that same instant, 100 miles to the south, in Encinitas, another group of disciples was meditating in the main room of the hermitage. They too heard a gong, as the moment that Master was striking it in Los Angeles. One of the monks later told me it was as though it were being struck in the hallway just outside the room we were in. The meditation that followed at Mount Washington was enthralling. Midnight came. Suddenly, waves of noise sweeping up from the city below and inward from the surrounding neighborhood. Factory whistles, car horns, shouts, as countless celebrants ushered in the new year. The door of a neighboring house opened, and a voice with a tone almost of desperation shouted into the night, "Happy New Year!" What a contrast between the frantic, emotional, almost feverish excitement in the sounds that were being unleashed by the thousands of celebrants around us, and the calm, expanding soul joy we experienced in ourselves, in the sublime peace of our little chapel. And how blessed, I reflected, how wonderful it was to be in this holy place at the feet of my divine Guru. I prayed that the new year would bring me an ever-deepening awareness of God's love. We can say that this is the reason that Yogananda came as an avatar, to show us by his example that we have a choice. How much do we allow ourselves to be influenced by the frantic, emotional, feverish excitement of the world around us? And how much do we choose that calm, expanding soul joy that's always within us? We have this choice for the new year, and we have this choice in every moment. Yoganandaji and the great masters are great only because they're such clear channels of the divine light on this world. Swamiji, when he was asked to tell a story of his years living with Yoganandaji, he said he couldn't think of a story until he thought of the spiritual lesson that Yoganandaji was teaching through that story. And then that was the purpose of the story. And of course it came to him. And he'd say that Yoganandaji did not come to show us what a great man he was. He came to show us how great we were. And that to remind us of that God within us in every moment. We talk here a lot about attunement. And attunement with God or Guru doesn't mean meditating all the time. What matters is that we love God. We try to see God in everything that we do. And we live our lives as we live them. But the difference is we live our lives with God. As Sukdeva said, all time is wasted that is not spent seeking God. Amit alluded to this mission of Yogananda, and it is certainly vast beyond scope that we can imagine. He wrote so many books, gave thousands of discourses, hundreds of techniques, and gave teachings that can be applied in the broadest way, in government, in public education, social upliftment, and yet these are all secondary compared to his one chief message, what it comes down to: love God and humbly seek God. which is not just techniques and sadhana, but is how to feel the joy of God more and more every day in everything that we do. And with this kind of joy, it doesn't matter what happens to us outwardly. We're just not affected. Swamiji tells the story of one disciple of Yoganandaji, and she was feeling especially good with her meditations in the ashram there, feeling very blissful. And then Yogananda asked her to go to downtown Los Angeles to a certain large department store, buy him a pair of gloves. And so she went and took an hour in the bus and walked in the busy streets and went to this big shop through all the markets. And he didn't need those gloves. He was testing her. Could she hold on to that bliss, going through such a worldly environment? Could she hold on to the bliss? And this is the lesson, the test for each of us. Yes, we can feel wonderful when we're here together, but our test is to hold on to that. And another aspect is when we include others in our joy increases. It only expands. Thinking of others more than ourselves, praying for them, meditating for them. Yoganandaji had the prayer, "Give me yourself so that I can give you to all." And we need to remember, of course, that giving to others does not mean catering to their whims and desires. As Swamiji said, when we live to please others, we're always disappointed. When we live to please God, we're never disappointed. And so we need to try to see God in others, to serve that God in them, to see the highest in them, and serve that. We need to put things in the right perspective. Just like a puppet, a string puppet, just seems like a pile, a clutter of cloth and strings, until you pick up that one right string, and then it forms its shape into a puppet. And so life just doesn't work until we pick it up from the correct string. As Jesus said, "Seek the kingdom of God first, and all these things will be added unto you." Everything in our life will sort itself out if we just pick it up from the right string. And this is really, in essence, Yoganandaji's message. Oftentimes, to get to this place, this understanding, we need to do the sadhana, we need to do the seva, we need correct understanding. But our goal is always this: to love God more. As Yoganandaji said in his voice this morning, with God, everything is fun. But without God, everything is everything but fun. Thank you.
I was listening to a talk by Nai Swami Asha yesterday, and she reminded me of something that I hadn't remembered. That when Master left for America, when he was just leaving, he was concerned about the materialism of the West, and he also thought, am I a fit channel? I mean, he had this vision of Americans, but he thought, am I a fit channel? So he asked his guru, is this what I'm supposed to do? And Sri Yukteswar gave Yogananda ji 2 blessings, important blessings before he left. The first one was, everywhere you go, you will find friends to help you and support you. And the second one was, divine power will flow through your eyes, and you will be able to draw people away from their preoccupation with materialism towards the consciousness of God. And those 2 blessings took place. And we all know how Yogananda ji in the West, how he did so many things. He did lecture tours, just again and again lectured to thousands of people, performed miraculous healings, wrote so many books, wrote the autobiography, formed an organization, drew great disciples to him. He did so much. And yet mainly what he was doing and everything he was doing was allowing the divine to flow through his eyes, draw people away from materialism towards the consciousness of God. Swami Kriyananda was one of the disciples that he drew to himself. And Swamiji tells the story of when he, because he had a beard, he was part of a nativity scene in Los Angeles. And when he was finished, Master asked him how it went. And he said, well, I would rather be like Christ than look like Christ. And Master said very matter-of-factly, that will come. That will come. That's the Guru's confidence in the disciple, and knowing that it's his work to transform the disciple into a Christ-like master also. And so Master blessed Swamiji with the same blessing that Sri Yukteswar blessed Yogananda with. And in turn, Yogananda ji has blessed all of us as his disciples to be his instruments of divine power, divine love in this world, and to help people turn away from only materialism towards the consciousness of God. And that's how we expand our own self-realization, is by being instruments of the divine. You know, when people turn to us and say, I've had a death in my family, I'm sick, my family, somebody in my family is sick, I've lost all my money, I'm too restless. All the different, Donald Trump has become the United States president. All these things that people have such a hard time with. You know, we have the divine power flowing through us, as given to us by our Guruji, has also helped us to understand through Swamiji, that we can help others understand that God has a hand in everything. And no matter what this situation, there is probably something to be learned here. And this situation will take you somewhere where you want to go. And how do we know that? We know that because we have that experience of the divine flowing from Master to us. And it's been our job, and it is our job, to receive that divine power so that it can flow through us. One time, Master was bringing Sri Yukteswar a glass of water. Sri Yukteswar was giving a public talk somewhere, and as Master was crossing the stage, she tripped on the carpet. And Sri Yukteswar made a joke in front of everybody and said something, oh, what an oaf, what an oaf. And people were laughing. And Yogananda said, you know, I could have been insulted by this. He said, but I looked out at the people that were chuckling, and I knew that not one of them had received what I had received from my Guru, the power, the realization that I had received from my Guru. And no amount of misunderstanding or mockery can take that away from me. And so as we also go to be instruments, as we meditate more, as we get deeper on the spiritual path, and we need to be his instruments in this world. We need to talk about God. We need to uplift others. We need to let that power shine through our words, through our eyes, through our deeds. And if people misunderstand us, what is that? We have to look in. What have we received? And I have that experience to stand on solid ground. Nobody can take that away from me. People may say, oh, you don't come out like you used to. You know, our friend said, oh, what is this meditation? You're wasting your time. Or our family disapproves in some way or another. Nobody's misunderstanding or mockery can affect what I have received. So we need to ask ourselves, what have I received? And if we're not clear about it, it's something to introspect for this new year. What have I received in meditation by being a disciple of this great Guru? What have I received in my heart, in my life, as my purpose, in understanding, in joy, in contentment, in fulfillment? And see if you can share that with others. So in this new year, we can also offer ourselves as instruments, as both Keshava and Amit has said today, this morning. And that is that, you know, how can divine flow through me? How can I help people feel the power? Master said again and again, gaze into the eyes of the Guru. Those are the windows of the soul. Gaze into the eyes of the Guru, because those eyes are giving us the power to become the sons of God, or giving us the power to be his instrument in this world. Yogananda said that unity, peace, and harmony would come in this world from the gradual dawning of awareness of God consciousness. Who is going to share that gradual awakening of God consciousness? It has to be us. If it's not us, then who? Then who? Those of us that come to New Year's morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock satsang, who else but us are going to be the ones? So, as a birthday present for Master, as we come up, in a moment we'll have a flower ceremony where we can come up and offer ourselves to God, to Guru. We can think, what birthday present would I like to give my Guru this year? You know, what promise can we make on being the ones who will share the power that's flowing through him to us? And how can we help him accomplish everything that he wants to accomplish, which is basically the dawning of awareness of God consciousness on this planet? And what are we going to offer him as a birthday gift? I think it'll bring him much joy if we offer ourselves to him as his instruments. God bless you.